Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Syntax Adda. My name is Raviranjan and I'm going to cover a most important topic in software development field, that is the design patterns. Okay, first let's have a look what all things I'm going to cover. Okay, so first one we are going to start with the introduction of the design patterns. Then we'll talk about the categories, different categories, advantages, and why and when to use these design patterns. Okay, so let's start with the introduction. So before starting, to see when we talk about the software development in Java, right? So we come across following, issues. For example, first category of issues we come across like creating of object again and again, right? So it's like cumbersome task which you need to, right? For every time you need object, you are going to create the object, right? Mm, by instantiating it. So this is like first category of problem we face in the software development. Second category of problem we can face, right? Like if you want to combine, right? You want to combine, two or more objects or classes to create a new structure to add some functionality to them, right? So in that case also, you have a lot of manual tasks to do to achieve this, right? Third category of the problem in the software development, we can think about the communications, communications between objects. Okay, so if you want to communicate between objects, you have to write the code, right, in order to achieve the communication between objects, right? So design patterns. So when we talk about the design pattern, it's like it's an idea. It's not an actual implementation. It gives you the idea, like how you can resolve these problems. Like, so design pattern says, hey, you can just, if you want objects, right, you can just follow some pattern and it will start giving you objects. Okay, design patterns say if you want to combine two or more objects, then don't worry, just follow some specific pattern, right, and get that structure ready, right? Then design patterns say if you want to communicate between objects, right, then also don't worry, you follow some of the pattern and then you call out in order to communicate between objects, right? So generally when we talk about the design patterns in software development, right, it helps you to you know uh, uh, improve the reusability and flexibility of certain tasks and problems, right? So that's about your the design patterns. If you want to have a proper definition about it, so you can see, so in Java, a design pattern is a well proven solution for solving specific problems or tasks in software development, right? So these patterns provide reusable and flexible solutions to common object oriented design challenges. So this is similar to what we discussed. Okay, so next we talk about the categories of the design patterns, right? So based on the problems we face, right, based on the problem we face while a software development cycle, right? So we based on that we have the broadly three categories, right? When we think about, right, we have the problems of creating objects and objects. So we can so there are some design patterns which will help you to achieve this, right, or solve this. Then we call that kind of you know patterns is called creational design patterns. So first one in this categories called creational design patterns. So usually these patterns focus on creation of object. Okay, so it will help you to create objects, right? So you can follow any of, yeah, if you want. So we'll cover all these patterns one by one, right? So under this creational design patterns we have factory pattern, abstract factory patterns, pattern, singleton pattern, prototype pattern, and builder pattern. So there are total 5 design pattern which we have under creational design patterns category. Okay, so next category if we talk about, that is the structural design pattern. So as we discussed, right, when in the software development, we sometimes we need to combine, right, or compose two or more objects to create a structure or and to add some new functionality to it, right? Then instead of manually doing it again and again, right, to perform that task again and again, you can use this kind of design pattern, that is the structural design patterns. So under this category we have different patterns, right, which we can use to achieve this composition of objects to add new functionality, right? So these categories are under this category we have adapter, bridge, composite, decorator, facade, clavate, and proxy patterns. So don't worry, we will discuss all these patterns one by one in our upcoming videos and with examples. Okay. So next category, if you see here, so we have behavioral design patterns. So based on the problem which we are facing, right, in order to communicate. So when we talk about communication between objects, we talk about the behavioral design patterns, right? So in generally these patterns focus on how objects, right, how objects interact with each other and how responsibilities are distributed among them. Got it? And it's also concerned about the communication between objects and how objects are encapsulating behavior. In object oriented programming in Java, we have encapsulation, one of the most important features, right, where objects, like how we are providing, like if we have a class, let's say, and we have different fields and methods, how we are allowing those fields and methods to be communicated to the outside world, though that concept is called encapsulation in Java, right? So here, all in this behavioral design patterns, right, it ensures like or it generally focus on these patterns, usually focus on how objects are encapsulating behavior. Hope this is clear. Okay. So in under these under these patterns category, we have following pattern: chain of responsibility, command, interpreter, iterator, mediator, memento, observer, state, strategy, template method, and visitor pattern. So there are total, if I'm not wrong, 11 patterns under this category. So in software development world, right? Uh, um, Based on object-oriented programming, or in Java, we have total 23 design patterns. So if you see in the first category, we have 5. In the second category, we have 6. Sorry, it's 7. And in the last, we have 11. So total 23 patterns are there in Java, design patterns, right? Now, next one is, okay, we have these design patterns. Then how these are going to benefit, right? What are the advantages of using design patterns? So I think this should be very clear now. What all the advantages, right? So it increases the reusability of certain tasks across the projects, right? So if we'll talk about, so we have the right, we can increase the reusability across the multiple projects. We will have the clear system architecture if you are using the design patterns, and using these idea in the design patterns, right? We are gaining the software engineering experiences, right? And also, last but not the least, if you see, it also maintain the transparency in the application design. So now the last section of this video, we'll see, or like why and when to use these design patterns, right? So for why, we have many answers, right? Why we are going to use. So as we know, design patterns are just an idea, right? Just an idea. It's not the implementation. It's just tells you how you are going to solve your problem, right? So we have three categories of problems, right? Where object creations, object communications, and compositions. So these are the three categories. So in order to solve this kind of problem, we use design patterns. So this is the answer to your why. Now next one is when to use, right, design patterns. So this is also depends on your analysis and the requirement phase of your software development. When we use that software development life cycle, during that time you do analysis, and you do the requirement. This is kind of requirement phase. That time you see and decide, okay, so if you have falls under some category, your requirement falls under some categories, then you can either like in any of these categories, like whether it's a creational design patterns or structural design patterns or behavioral design patterns. So you can use any pattern, right, from those categories in order to use the design pattern idea, right? So thank you so much for your time. If you like my video, please like it and share it with your friends. And please subscribe my channel for any latest video. Thank you so much.